Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I am Gil Cedillo. This is the Housing Committee. We have a quorum. I am joined by my colleague, Councilmember Paul Krikorian, and we will shortly be joined by our other colleague, Councilmember Marquise Harris-Dawson, who is tending other matters for the city of Los Angeles. He's working with our Rules Committee at the moment. Do we need a roll call, Madam Clerk? I think we're good.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'll call the roll. Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo present.
Councilmember Krikorian.
Here.
And Councilmember Harris-Dawson will be joining later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'd like to talk about the rules of public comment and see if there's any public comment today.
Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-871-1866 and then press the number sign. Press the number sign again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
Do we have public comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have several callers, so we can go forward and begin public comment at this time.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay. So caller with the numbers ending in 4899, please press *6 when mute yourself. Yes, please state your name and which item you'd like to speak on.
My name is Terry Goddard. I'm the Executive Director of Alliance for Housing and Healing, and this is general public comment.
Okay, you have 1 minute.
Hello, I'm commenting on the recent Hopwa RFP released by HCID LA. In LASA's 2020 homeless count, we saw a reduction in the number of HIV-positive homeless persons over last year's count. This decrease is also reflected in other LASA homeless counts over the past 4 years. While even one homeless person with HIV is unacceptable, this decrease reflects the good performance of the currently configured Hopwa system coordinated by HCID LA. To continue to decrease the HIV-positive homeless rate, I have two recommended changes to the Hopwa RFP. The first change is allow Hopwa regional offices to continue to subcontract for housing specialist services so they may continue to assist underserved HIV populations that include but are not limited to persons of color, homeless persons, persons with mental illness or chemical dependency, and LGBTQ. The other is to fully fund the Residential Service Coordination Program to support our low-income HIV-positive clients living in permanent supportive housing units. Thank you.
Thank you. The caller with the numbers ending in 1403.
Yes. All fucking items in general public comment.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Uncle Gil. Thank you, Uncle Gil. All right. Item number 1. Carmen Chang. No, she's a cunt. No on item 1. No. Item number 2. Housing and community development. Anytime you see that, you know there's going to be an FBI probe. Master agreement, FBI no. CD13, number 3. You already gave him $1 million for the Anson Ford Theater, right, Krikorian? Right, Wayne. Okay, so now number 3. Let's give the other 14 council districts some money. You'll have to buy a couple of new trash cans because the homeless keep burning them up. Item number 4. Look at this. LLCs. Secret LLCs are number 4. Absolutely. Thank you, Barnum. Thank you, Harris-Dawson. I wish you'd actually attend one of these fucking meetings, little clown. Now, who owns an LLC, Gil, that we know? Mark Ridley Thomas's son. He owns an LLC. That's right. And you know what he's doing, Gil? He's getting $10,000 payments for doing fucking nothing for his father's campaign. Laundering money through LLCs. It's the name of the game. Now Bonin has decided to put his little foot down and stop it. Now I'm hearing a motion from Krikorian. He's telling me in my other ear, well, I think I want to divide him. Well, it's too late, fool. Now we're going to find out who's got this land. Who's stealing through LLC? Why is Ridley Thomas's disgraced sexual harassing son getting $10,000 multi-payments to a phony-ass LLC? Let's find out. Number 5, the affordable housing linkage fee. Go over to the Sportsman's Lodge in CD2. Look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. They're turning our hotel into a fucking clown house. Why is Paul Krikorian dumping homeless in fucking Studio fucking City? Why? What's going on here, Gil? Why is he dumping these motherfuckers in the most expensive housing area in the entire city? What is Paul Krikorian up to? I want to know. That's the sound of the goat. What is the sneaky Armenian up to now? Why is the Sportsman's Lodge housing all of these COVID patients and putting them over in another hotel on Ventura Boulevard, over in Sherman Oaks of all places? Why? Why? Why are they doing this? This is what we want to know. That's why we're all here today. And thank you to the 9 FBI agents that are listening to the meeting. Remember what I always said. Gil Cedillo is innocent. The rest of them, they all need to be fucking...
Thank you. Your time is up. The next speaker, ending in 0899, please press star to unmute yourself. Please state your name and which items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, this is Stacy Dawson-Stearns, and I would like to speak on item 4 and general public comment, please.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you, Bonin. This item is good, but I'd like to ask you to put some more teeth in it. The motion doesn't have any dates specified for when you're to hear back on these reports. And it's really essential that you also include language in here that's not just about LLCs that own residential property. It should be about LLCs that are purchasing tracts of land to build property, residential and commercial property. We have a really big problem here, as Mr. Cedillo knows. I called in this morning and mentioned, or yesterday morning, and mentioned this Avenue 34 project. I'm going to segue into my general public comment. Y'all need to start prioritizing actual affordable housing, okay? The amount of these talks that you're sending through, where you literally have like several affordable housing units in a sea of luxury apartments, is not going to solve any problems here. And we have LLC after LLC operating there. That one is a total shell game, and it's really embarrassing. It's really embarrassing that like 4,000 community voices mean nothing to Mr. Cedillo. But we're not done with you yet with that, Gil. We're not. And it's sad that I have to ask you guys, and I thank you, Bonin, but you have to work harder with this. This has no teeth whatsoever. Nothing's going to happen if you don't sharpen it up. But I'm so tired of people having to watchdog you guys instead of you actually acting in our best interest. We have a terrible homeless situation. We have an affordable housing situation here. So you're continuing to spend a lot of our time and a lot of our money on dealing with, like, luxury developers. And that's bullshit. And I'd like you to do something about it. Thank you so much. I yield my time.
Thank you. Will the speaker with numbers ending in 6360 please press star 6 to unmute yourself and say your name and which item you'd like to speak on?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jesse Slansky. I'm the president and CEO of West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation, and I have a general public comment.
Okay, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. We are a nonprofit affordable housing developer. We have been providing housing for people with HIV and AIDS for over 30 years. I am calling with grave concerns about the recently released Hopwa RFP. issued by HSID, they have changed their long-standing practice and no longer allow agencies to apply for resident services coordination funding on a standalone basis. This will be devastating for our organization and other organizations like us, and will reduce the amount of services we can provide, and people will be forced back out onto the streets. So we strongly encourage you to encourage HSID to amend their NOFA and reinstate the longstanding practice of allowing agencies to apply for resident services coordination funding on a standalone basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the speaker with numbers ending in 2616, please press star 6 to unmute yourself, state your name and which item you'd like to speak on.
Thank you. It's Eric Previn, and I'd like to speak on all items in a short general public comment sermon. But I'll start with item number 4, which is Mike Bonin has wisely identified that LLCs are an opportunity for various investors to get into an LLC, and it's hard to identify who they are. Now, in the state of New York, the great state of New York, as corrupt as California, I assume, they've come up with a way which is requiring that all of the participants be listed. And that's a model that might be worth following. But let's take a look at what the problems are with LLCs. I'll give you an example of the company Jameson Properties that David Rue took money from and then gave it back, so that worked out well for everybody. But they had a series of real estate holdings in Los Angeles, not residential, but corporate properties. And they were making incredible inroads getting county contracts. I finally said, how do I tell how many contracts Jameson Group has? And they said, we can't really help you, sir, because they're all inside LLC. So I found a way to do a PRA and found out that 22 major, to the tune of, over $1 million a month in rent to the county of Los Angeles, as the Ganesh preside, like Mr. Ridley Thomas, who, doled out numerous contracts like that to the company Jameson, and in exchange they've floated him along with a myriad of contributions. He doesn't have the same problem that Rue does with contributions from developers. He takes them happily and willingly, which is why I recommend you vote for Grace Yu for CD10. Enough is enough on that particular score. Another example is in Studio City, you have 2 little LLCs that are giving money to Carol Tarosian while he runs a perfectly dignified and disgusting campaign for CD7, which he was never intended to win, but it allowed him to gather lots of support for decisions that he then made in CD2. And I'm speaking about, of course, the vacation of city property 700 feet west of Whitsett on Ventura Boulevard, and, the reasons for that, which have still not become clear. And then finally, obviously, the Massaborsky LLCs is the one that are the signature item in which Mitch O'Farrell innocently received gazillion contributions from Mr. Massaborsky, a guy who likes to ingratiate himself, but he forgot, he couldn't keep track of how many of his little 20s he had in the various holdings that they all participated in together under a category called the Massaborsky LLCs. So he got tagged by the Ethics Commission, and he had to pay back the money, a minor slap on the wrist. But remember, O'Farrell also had to pay a penalty, and we didn't see anything about that. Here's the thing. LLCs serve one purpose and one purpose alone, which is to operate under the radar. That is never in the public's interest. We always want to know with whom we're doing business. And Mr. Weintraub down at Sportsman's, Krikorian probably doesn't even know there are 8 different LLCs that the man used to say thanks and howdy do. It's appalling. And Mr. Mark,
sir.
You got to be kidding. What about my general?
Yeah, you had 3 minutes total. So
my general was included in that?
Yes, 1 minute for general public comment, 2 minutes for multiple.
I'm hearing you want me to keep going.
No, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you very much. With the speaker whose phone ends in 3645, press star 6 to unmute yourself, state your name and which item.
Hi, my name is Joe Donlin with Strategic Actions for a Just Economy. I'd like to speak on general comment and item number 4.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. For general comments, I just want to raise, again, for this committee and for all of the City Council, the dire need for the Council to bring forward the Tenant Anti-Harassment Ordinance that has been in development for 3 years now. And as has been noted on many occasions, harassment by landlords has always been a very common and extremely harmful practice on the physical and mental health of families, not to mention the economic impacts that comes with it, especially as harassment is often a precursor or a means to displace tenants. And in our current COVID times, we've seen among our members and among tenants citywide that there has been a drastic uptick in harassment as landlords have had fewer tools in their tool belts to apply during these times because of emergency tenant protections. And so we really need to see this move forward as soon as possible. On item number 4, we want to support this item in the effort to shine more light on property owners who use the LLC designation and other corporate designations as is referenced in the motion. We've done some research on this, and we'll have a report coming out soon shedding some light on this. But some points to note that almost 67% of all units are owned by non-individual entities in the city of LA, which is 1.5 times the most recent estimate for the United States as a whole. There's 79% of all multifamily units are owned by non-individual entities in the city of LA. And in particular, LLCs or limited partnerships or LLPs own over 26% of all residential units and all properties.
Caller, your time out. Please comment.
Can I make one last comment there?
Please.
Yes, your time is up. Please conclude your comment.
So we finish your comment, please?
The last point, I think all this is really important because we have found and others have found that LLCs and other corporate entities have, on average, greater incidences of harmful practices in their businesses that affect tenants, such as slum housing, harassment again, eviction practices, while also, have ways to avoid taxes and things like that. So there's a lot of policy making matters at stake here.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Sir, can you please give us the report or the basis for the year statistics? I'm interested in looking at those points that you made. That's for
sure, we can turn that along.
I thank you.
Thank you. The next caller doesn't have a number, but calling user, please press star 6 to unmute. Calling user, please press star 6. Okay, your name and which item?
Yes, my name is Jasmine Clayton, and I am speaking on general public comments. My name is Jasmine Clayton. I'm the Senior Manager, Strategic Partnership at APIT, a division of Special Service Groups. I'm also a member of the Los Angeles Transgender Advisory Group. And the APIT and SSG is a subcontractor in the service planning area 4 for Metro Los Angeles and 6 in South LA. I'm advocating for the inclusion of subcontractors to provide housing support services under the recent release Hopwa request for a proposal. Eliminating subcontractors would prove disastrous for their already challenging homeless crisis in the city that we're facing. So Hopwa regional centers like APLA and SPA 6 and Alliance for Housing and Healing and Healing in SPA 4 rely on the cultural competent services and geographic scope of subcontractors like APIT, Hopix, and Vienna Star Human Services. When do we expect Black and Brown communities who are experiencing homelessness or at risk for homelessness in areas of Compton and Linwood to access services solely at a regional center across town, like locations like Baldwin Hills? And do we expect
Please conclude your comments that your time has approached.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, it's really unclear how the regional centers are expecting to co-locate and obtain physical work spaces and equipment and safety issues, including HIPAA and client privacy on various occasions without addressing insurance and security issues. So I appeal to you to do the right thing and restore subcontracting for the Hopwa Housing Support Services.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. The next speaker, ending in 8927, please press *6 to unmute. State your name and which item.
My name is Bridget Twaddell. I'm the Executive Director at Project New Hope, and I have a general comment.
Okay, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Project New Hope's been providing both permanent housing and supportive services to individuals and families living with HIV and AIDS and experiencing homelessness through the Hopwa grant since the 1990s. And while we welcome innovation in program design and the reduction of administrative burdens for Hopwa personnel, we also have grave concerns regarding the most recently released Hopwa RFP. The most pressing concern is in regards to supportive services historically provided by resident services coordinators. The current RFP does not fully fund resident services coordination unless a regional office agrees to oversee and subcontract that component, making resident services coordination an optional service only. Resident service coordinators provide critical housing stabilization support through connecting tenants to medical mental health services, provide crisis management, mediate conflict with landlords, assist in accessing Social Security benefits, and more recently, during this pandemic, resident services coordinators have ensured that residents have access to appropriate supplies, including PPEs.
Please conclude your comments.
I'm sorry?
Please conclude your comments. Your time has approached.
Okay. We respectfully request that you urge HCID to continue to fully fund resident services coordinators on a standalone basis and to rethink the proposed new design with the input of their service providers and reissue the RFP at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, ending in 1403, please press *6 to unmute and state your name and which item.
Mr. Chairman, that's Mr. Spindler. He's already spoken. He's already spoken. He needs to be cut off to be equitable to all callers.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Would the speaker ending in 1317 please press *6 and your name and which item?
Good afternoon. My name is Danny Pepper, and I'm the Director of Resident Services for West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation, and I have some general comments regarding the recently released Hopwa RFP.
Yes, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. For over 30 years, West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation has been providing programs for persons living with HIV/AIDS through Resident Services Coordination under the Hopwa program. This year's Hopwa RFP no longer includes residential services coordination as a required service. Without this vital support, vulnerable people such as the formerly homeless and our aging in place older adults will lose their housing. Please help us. I respectfully request that HCID amend the NOFA to allow providers to continue to apply for and contract directly with HCID for Hopwa Resident Services Coordination funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With the next speaker ending in 7302, please press *6 to unmute and state your name and which item. Go ahead. Caller ending in 7302, you may speak.
Hi, Alexander Herndon with the Inner City Law Center, just calling in public comment. I wanted to reiterate the...
Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I'm calling to reiterate the call to advance the Tenant Anti-Harassment Ordinance to the full council. While the legal eviction protections that have been passed are critically important to make sure that tenants are able to protect themselves during a pandemic. We have not taken care of the inappropriate and illegal harassing behavior of landlords that pushes tenants out of their homes and into the streets. And we desperately need this ordinance to be advanced and passed to make sure we can protect the public health. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next speaker, ending in 1483, and press star 6.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Bailey. I'm the Director of HIV Access at APLA Health and Wellness, and I will be providing feedback in general public comment.
Okay. Thank you. 1 minute.
Similar to my colleagues, I am responding to the recently released Hopwa RFP, which terminates the ability of regional centers to subcontract for housing support services. Presently, we are the Regional Center for Service Planning Area 6, or South Los Angeles, and the inability to be able to subcontract for services will certainly limit the geographical diversity of those services in places where clients reside. It also negates the cultural relationships that agencies have with their clients, in particular, as my colleague Jasmine stated, from APIT. I also want you to understand the liability that this places on clinics and other agencies, in which HCID is requiring regional centers to place their own staff into the agencies themselves. And I think in this era of COVID, I'm not sure other organizations are going to want staff from outside agencies co-located in their agencies. And more importantly, excuse me?
Please complete your comment. Your time has
okay. Well, thank you for listening, and I encourage you to advocate for us in order to amend this RFP to allow those services be subcontracted. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, ending in 0464, press star 6 to unmute. State your name and which item. Caller ending in 0464, please press star 6. Okay, we'll move on. With the caller ending in 4899, please press star 6. Okay, we'll move on. With the caller ending in 8072, please press star 6 to unmute. Okay, we'll move on. The caller ending in 6411, please press star 6 to unmute.
Hello, my name is Brendan O'Connell from Vienna Star Human Services. I'm calling for general comment.
Yes, 1 minute, please.
Yes, I also, like the previous callers, are asking to amend the NOFO release to restore subcontracting to the Hopwa RFA. Once again, as has already been stated really well by Jeff Bailey recently in the last comment, the subcontracting ability allows culturally complacent agencies who have done this work for a long time continue to subcontract with the regional hubs and provide this service directly to community that we have a history of providing services for. So please consider this. It would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, we have I'll go back to the remaining 3 callers on. Oh, wait, here. Okay, caller 8072.
Yeah, great. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Katya Nelson. I'm with APLA Health, and I'm on the HIV Commission for the county, and I'm making general public comment.
Okay. Thank you. 1 minute, please.
Thank you. So, along with all my colleagues who've spoken today, I want to express concern with a number of the new RFP language changes that, folks have shared would create technical and safety challenges for co-location of staff, especially during a pandemic, create insurance liability and client privacy concerns, with reduction of service delivery sites and housing staff in communities with highest need, and especially risk the loss of culturally competent
historic services across communities. We have learned this morning that Hopwa is looking to amend the RFP language based on community feedback, but we're not sure what the extent of the amendment is, and we would really urge each of your offices to request that HSID both share the draft language with community and expedite this amendment to ensure that it's approved before the RFP due date, so we can preserve our successful service model that I think everyone here has shown that we need to keep. So we're happy to provide more information to your offices as needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll go back to the two remaining callers to check in. With the caller ending in 0464, please press *6 to unmute. Okay, I'm not getting a response there. And finally, caller ending in 4899, please press *6 to unmute. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm not getting a response, so that completes the balance of our callers on the queue.
Well, then that looks like that concludes public comment for the afternoon. Madam Clerk, shall we proceed with our agenda?
For the record, I would just like for Councilmember Harris-Dawson to confirm his attendance in the meeting.
Oh, great.
Present. Thank you. And for item
Bienvenido.
For item number 1, we have a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Carmen Chang to the Commission for Community and Family Services, and Ms. Chang is currently in the meeting.
Welcome, Ms. Chang. Colleagues, why don't we hear a few words from Ms. Chang?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Carmen Chang, and I just wanted to first thank the Mayor's Office, Mayor Garcetti, for the appointment, as well as the Mayor's Office for navigating me through this process. I would like to thank Mr. Chairman and Councilmember Cedillo, my Councilmember Krikorian, as well as Councilmember Harris-Dawson for your time today. So I am originally from Los Angeles. I'm a lifelong community organizer. I spent a good portion of my young professional career places in Washington, D.C., living in different states and serving in the federal government under the Obama administration, doing political campaign community organizing work, as well as serving abroad in the Peace Corps in Cameroon, Central West Africa. During that time, I've realized, community is my passion, as it is for so many others. And I've returned to my hometown of Los Angeles for 2 years now, and I'm just so, grateful for this potential opportunity to serve my hometown, particularly, especially during this time of COVID, when, so many folks are struggling during multiple crises, and we just really need to be there with community for, working families, people of color, immigrant communities. I'm currently working as the organizing director at the California Immigrant Policy Center, or CIPC. But I really want to make sure that folks, in the community's voices are heard and that they have access to services, just to make sure that they're taken care of. So thank you so much for the opportunity and for your time today.
Carmen, let me say I want to thank you for your work at the CIPC, and it's nothing could hardly be more important amongst everything that's so important at this moment. So thank you for that work. Colleagues, any questions? I think you've been spared, and so we look forward to moving this nomination forward. And we will do likewise. This will go to the council. Mr. Krikorian.
I just wanted to move the recommendation, Mr. Chairman, with our thanks and appreciation to Ms. Chang for her service to date and her service to the city still to come.
Awesome. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we need a roll call, or is this good?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Calling the roll to approve item number 1. Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
3 ayes. This item is approved. Item number 2 is a city administrative officer and Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department reports relative to authority to utilize funds from the Municipal Housing Finance Fund to extend by 6 months the Executive Advisor Task and Placement Agreement in the HCID-LA Housing Development Bureau under the city's master agreement with Fuse Corps.
Okay, we have some reports.
Hi, my name is Sarah Wall, and do you want to go ahead, Brittany?
No, please go forward.
My name's Sarah Wall, and I'm a manager with HCID-LA, and just wanted to give a brief update on the status of the Housing Finance Agency concept Transmittal. Currently, our Ann Sewell is working through details with the mayor's office, and we expect that to be released in early 2021. However, David Sparakis, who is the Fuse Fellow that we're speaking about on this motion, is the lead technical expert and essentially the project manager. He has an extensive background in finance and investment banking and a specialized skill set that is critical for moving this initiative forward. His responsibilities include developing a startup plan, an operations plan, establishing a governance structure, an oversight structure, and he is currently refining the business plan and financial projections and is critical to bringing this initiative before council.
Very good.
That's all.
Thank you. Brittany.
Yes, I think I agree with Sarah and hope that we can get this across the finish line so that we can renew Mr. Sparakis' contract and allow him to continue this work that is so important to us continuing our work with affordable housing.
Okay. Colleagues, any questions? Let's move the recommendation.
Moved.
The recommendations. So moved. Second, can we get a roll call?
Calling the roll to approve the recommendations in the CAO report. Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
3 ayes. The CAO report is approved. Item number 3, we have a city administrative officer and Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department reports and resolution relative to authority to issue tax-exempt multifamily conduit revenue bonds or notes, renewing the Home Investment Partnerships Program award letter, negotiating and executing a home loan, and updating the joint disposition and development agreement for the Hollywood Arts Collective and Affordable Housing Project.
Hi, this is Andre Perry. I'm the manager of the taxes on bond unit and the HHH unit for HCID-LA. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
The item before you is a bond issuance for the project Hollywood Arts Collective, which is in CD13, requesting a bond amount of $44 million. There's a unit mix of 152 units with a TDC of $94.5 million. Which includes a city home loan of roughly $5.85 million and affordable housing sustainable community proceeds of $9.5 million. The sense of urgency with respect to this project, as you're well aware, every bond transaction requires a inducement, TEFRA, and bond resolution. This project did receive its TEFRA, which is the public hearing, and was approved by this body and by council. With respect to the allocation that the project has, the project received an allocation in April of this year. It has up until December 1st by CIDLAC to be able to close the transaction. So the city is looking to move forward with this this item for your consideration and approval. I have with me the lead project manager, Cecilia Rosales, as well as a member team for the land development unit for HZLA with contact, and we're available for any questions that this committee may have.
Colleagues, any questions on this matter for the CD13? Is that correct?
I'll move the item.
Okay. Item moved. Can we get a roll call, Madam Clerk?
For clarification, Mr. Chair, is that to approve the CAO recommendations or the HCID recommendations?
Move to approve CAO recommendations.
Calling the roll for item number 3, Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
3 ayes. This item is approved. Item number 4 is a motion by Bonin and Harris Dawson relative to recommendations on a citywide ordinance requiring the disclosure of beneficial ownership of LLCs purchasing residential real estate in the city, including other types of corporations, and an estimate of the number of residential units currently owned by LLCs.
Okay. Mr. Harris Dawson, you want to wax poetically about this matter?
I have no such desire at this time, Mr. Chairman.
I'll be happy to move the item.
Certain matters speak for themselves. They are on their face. Self-evident. Okay. So be the motion. Madam Chair, you want to, Madam Clerk, can run a roll call, please?
Calling the roll to approve item number 4, Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
3 ayes. The motion is approved. And lastly, we have item number 5, which is an affordable housing linkage fee oversight committee report relative to the fiscal year 2019-2020 AHLF expenditure plan, revenue estimate from Bay Urban Economics, Inc., and an AHLF revenue activity analysis report.
Great. Who's reporting?
Good afternoon, council members. This is Claudia Monterrosa from HZLA, and this report before you is a receive and file. This is based on a report that we provided as part of our annual report to the Oversight Committee back in May, in which we provided a detailed report on the activities of the linkage fee for this first 2 years. And it also has a brief overview of a study that we commissioned to determine that, help to determine the impact of COVID on the linkage fee revenue. And so those results are in that report. The other item that I can report on is the revenue or cash balance as of to date. We did complete the third fiscal year of the linkage fee from July 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and the receipts as of that date are $17 million, approximately almost $18 million that will be appropriated for the upcoming fiscal year 2021. So that amount of funding will be coming next at a next oversight committee scheduled to take place sometime in November. That report with a proposed expenditure plan based on the priorities in the tier system that was adopted by the council will be coming forth to you for review and consideration and approval before the end of the year.
Yeah. Mr. Krikorian?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I didn't catch the last part. What will be coming back to us by the end of the year?
Before the end of the year, what we must do is propose an expenditure plan for the revenues received for the last fiscal year. So we basically appropriate the funding of the linkage fee in arrears. We need to accumulate the funding from the prior fiscal year and then appropriate it for this current fiscal year. So What will be coming to you will be proposed expenditure for 2019-2021 fiscal year.
Okay, but that would be kind of a project-specific spending plan?
No, it's actually going to be following the expenditure plan that has several priorities for spending. That includes housing production, preservation, home ownership. Those are the top priority categories, and they follow a tier system that was adopted by the council a few years back.
Right, but what I mean is, will the spending plan within those categories recommend particular projects or expenditures to be approved within each category, or is it a more generic kind of a spending plan that we expect to have X dollars that we're planning to spend?
Yeah, it will be a full expenditure plan with proposed program expenditures by program area.
Okay, so will there be a time when, or do we need to separately ask for a report where there will be some assessment made about whether the particular allocation among these categories is the highest and best use of these funds? And one particular example that comes to my mind is the moderate income housing purchase program, which I, was wholly supportive of and think that's a really important program. But I see that there's only been, if I read this correctly, there was only one expenditure approved in the last fiscal year, and that with additional funding, we hope to get up to 24, if I read that correctly. Is that right?
Yes, that was for the very first expenditure plan, but we do have Sarah Wall here from the Housing Development Bureau, and we work together on putting and administering the expenditure plan for the linkage fee. So if Sarah could chime in and respond to that specific question on the home ownership program, and that we do have some really good plans for that for this expenditure plan, Mr. Krikorian.
Okay, good. So the specific question was, did I read that right?
Yeah, you did. And the reason for that is we wanted to, instead of opening and closing, we were going to do a larger round. Every time we open of moderate income purchase assistance program, it is gone quickly. There is way more demand than we have resources for. Yeah. So this fiscal year, we paired it with the permanent local housing allocation, otherwise known as SB2. So there'll be a larger round offered in January. I think they've already opened it, but they're going to start issuing loans, and we're expecting to do over 70 loans.
Okay, great.
So it'll be bridged.
And to further add, Mr. Krikorian, the highest priority is for housing production, at over 50% of the funds to go for housing production, and the remaining for preservation and home ownership.
Right. And where I'm going with this is we kind of set these different pots up at the beginning of this plan because those all seemed like worthy purposes to expend this money on. But at some point, with the benefit of experience, I think it's important that we reassess that and determine whether or not, in fact, we are getting the most bang for the buck with a particular program. Because I just, speaking for myself, I think when we have programs that are essentially lotto programs, where a relative handful of people benefit from a government program that doesn't have a macroeconomic impact on the price of housing in the marketplace, but it just benefits a handful of people. That's great for that handful of people, but I wonder if that's the appropriate role of government in setting housing policy. And maybe we're better off diverting some of that money into another purpose, like preserving affordable housing covenants. So at some point, I think we need to, as policymakers, we need to take a longer view at this with the benefit of the experience, and with your recommendations, make a determination of, is this the right way to appropriate these revenues, or is there a better way that would help either help more people or bring down the overall, have a greater impact on the overall housing market?
Absolutely. And I do want to clarify that for the last expenditure plan, there was not enough funding in those categories because it's been a little bit slow in getting substantial revenue generated from the linkage fee. And so with the combination of last year's unspent funds and this last fiscal year's completed revenue collection, we'll have more of a critical mass of funding that will definitely make a difference in having that as a gap assistance source of funding alongside the managed pipeline, and to have more funding, more significant funding for the preservation of affordable housing, including some of the covenants, purchases of covenants, and of course putting more funding into the homeownership program, in particular the moderate income program, purchase assistance program. But Sarah, you may want to add some more.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you in that the tier system is a framework to think about how to allocate resources, but we have to always stop and look and assess needs and look at opportunities, and we will make recommendations for modifications to that, and that will be presented in our expenditure plan. But I agree with you that looking at a sort of per dollar benefit, kind of a cost benefit analysis of where we can get the most benefit for those funds is something that we can do. I think it is just revving up. I mean, last fiscal year, it was under $6 million. And so I'm saying 1920. And so this fiscal year, there'll be a greater amount of resources, and hopefully there forward, and we'll begin to be able to compare year to year and really try to maximize the benefit per person, for the market. I see what you're saying.
Just one other thing that Ms. Monterosa actually reminded me about. There's a statement that kind of in passing in the report that says that the affordable housing developers have been significantly set back because of COVID-19. And I'm just kind of wondering, other than the overall impact that there's been on development as a whole, are there specific reasons that affordable housing has been hurt during this time? Is it a construction issue? Is it a financing issue? Is it a administrative issue? What are the barriers that have been produced because of the pandemic?
So I know we have Andre Perry on the line. I mean, I could definitely make a few comments too, but Andre, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Did you want to answer? Okay.
Sure. Just in terms of the impact on COVID, obviously you have the impact with respect to funding sources, particularly from our local county and state partners. We've had a variety of deals that are part of the HHHH program, as well as this particular deal that was an item 3 that received an allocation in April of this year, but received an extension by virtue of the fact that there were delays brought on from COVID. We've seen impacts as it pertains to tax credit pricing, as many of our affordable housing deals are funded with the sale of low-income housing tax credits. Historically, we've seen pricing in the low to mid 90 cent per tax credit dollar. We're now seeing it in the universe of like the mid to high 80 cents range. And that's a function of obviously the reduced tax revenue and tax income, reduced revenue of tax purchasers. But I will say that one of the positive things that we've seen over the last few months of since March is that as it pertains to many of our bond deals, particularly our HHH deals,
the city has been pretty aggressive with regards to the number of deals it has been able to close. Since March of this year to present, we've closed 14 deals. And we're expected to close an additional, targeting of roughly about 13 before the end of this year. And that's been a function of the fact that I believe it shows that the HHH program is working, and that it has many of the deals that were moving through the entitlement process as a result of ED 13 and its ability to expedite the entitlement process for affordable housing and supportive housing developers are working. And so there is a silver lining to that, but in terms of the equity pricing on affordable housing deals, you definitely have seen an impact, and you've also seen an impact with respect to rates.
Yes, and I would also like to add that the city has done a fantastic job this year in securing additional outside sources from the state, and a combination of a number of state funds, including the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities Program, the Infill Infrastructure Grant Program, the Multifamily Housing Program, and others, which has been kind of record-breaking for us this year alone. However, looking in the future, I think what we need to do is secure additional fundings once the bonds and at the state level, and hopefully we'll continue to have, this additional source of funding at the local level through the linkage fee, through the which is our permanent supportive housing funding program, and also at the state we now have a permanent source of funding in the form of SB 2, and so we are expecting upwards of $100 million over the course of 5 years. So we are expecting the first allocation of that funding to come in at the end of this year, early next year. So both SB2 linkage and linkage fee dollars will serve as gap assistance for the managed pipeline. So we are making really good progress in that regard. And in terms of the impact of the actual linkage fee revenue, we did see a big drop in revenue at the beginning of the COVID crisis. But interestingly enough, over the last 3 years of the beginning of this fiscal year, we're seeing some sort of steady revenue upwards of $1.5 million on average right now, which is keeping pace to some of similar patterns that we saw last year. However, we're still not reaping the maximum benefit on the linkage fee. I think that will still have to be assessed in the months and years to come in terms of COVID and realizing the full potential of the linkage fee revenue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Thank you. Why don't we move? Mr. Dawson, are you good?
Actually, I have some questions that I wanted to add to sort of Mr. Krikorian's inquiry on the other side of the value proposition of this measure. As I remember the measure, it did two things. It placed a linkage fee on certain types of housing development, but it also encouraged developers, if they wanted to avoid that fee, to place units in their building. And I'm just wondering, on the other side, how many of those units did we get? How do we calculate the value of those units to the city in the overall mix? Because as councils in the future are looking at this, the value proposition of this, you can't just look at the dollars and cents that are collected and what you can do with them. You also have to look at what we got and what it would have cost to produce that housing on our own.
Yes. Claudia, do you want me to jump in on that? It's Ann.
Sure.
Hi, everybody. So Ann Sewell, General Manager, Housing Community Investment. The linkage fee net proceeds have been a lot lower than we had expected originally, and I think a lot of that is due to the success of the transit-oriented communities incentive program that was adopted after JJJ passed, adopted by the City Council, which right now has produce 30,000 units overall, of which 6,500 are very low and extremely low income. Those units, they meet their linkage fee requirements, as you said, Councilmember, by providing them on site. So yeah, absolutely. We're not getting the fee, but we're getting the housing, which is a really good thing. So I don't know that I haven't captured from planning, and we could work on doing that. How many projects are not TOC and choosing to do the units on site? I don't think it's been a very big number, because most of them are coming in and using those incentives on the TOC program.
Yes, and if I may add, we started looking at population at the research question over the summer. We don't have sufficient data to determine the exact outcomes that we would like to see, but Anne is absolutely correct. The TOC program has generated on-site units, but it's important to note that a lot of it has provided a streamlining opportunity for all sorts of programs that really match the linkage fee exemptions, to be exempt from the linkage fee. So a lot of them are opting to do and to go the way of a TOC. And it's also important to note that a lot of our affordable housing unit developers are also going through the TOC program. And so what we need to do is that fine detail analysis of what is publicly subsidized and not publicly subsidized to figure out what the net value is that we're capturing by having those on-site units, as opposed to getting the revenue from the linkage fee.
Thank you for that. Mr. Chair, it's after 4, so I'll be blunt and short. We need that information ASAP. We got to know that. How many units happen because of this policy, and what would it have cost us to do those units ourselves? And we need to know that with some clarity and distinction. So I'd humbly make that request, Mr. Chair, and yield my time.
Yes, and we need to get that information and see how it interfaces with the other models that were discussed, the TOC, et cetera. Okay. So we have a request, and we can move to receive and file a report, but we do need more information in terms of the different, both sides of looking at this equation, or the multiple ways of looking at this, and the cost-benefit analysis of this program, how we can make it work, what are the challenges, because all these have been results of important political fights, of which they were in many respects almost stated to be the panacea for all our problems in housing, and in fact, while they are significant, they are not the panacea. So they require that critical analysis. So is that clear? Are we good, Ann?
I am going. Yes, we will get you that and get. I mean, I think there are reasons why we want to move this forward quickly.
Yes.
There are things we need to spend money on and get moving on. Nothing's going to be the panacea. I hate to break it to all of us.
You would know.
Right. Been doing this long enough. But I too would love to know the answer to who is doing on-site. I can almost guarantee you that it is a very tiny number of people who are choosing to do on-site linkage fee units without any of the incentives provided by TOC or density bonus, because it's really hard to do. So it's going to be a small number, and we do need to move forward with this. But if you would like to hold it and have us come back to you, we can get that as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
and why don't we move this?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm fine with moving it. I just want to register this. You know, if you can just close your eyes and imagine the headline. This person committed to build an affordable unit, and because we don't keep track, the unit was never built. The city never got it. So it just worries me that we don't have that information handy. Because we know how these things go. And once the building's built, it'll be too late to go back and say, oh, you were supposed to do an affordable unit.
Understood.
Madam Clerk, we've got a great echo. We're going to move this report forward, but we're also going to ask for ancillary feedback from the department on the points that were raised by the committee members. Are we good with that?
So that would be a recommendation to receive and file with an additional recommendation to report back with additional information.
Correct.
Okay. Call in the roll for item number 5. Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
3 yeses. This item is approved as amended. There are no more items before us, Mr. Chair.
Yes, then I think motion to adjourn, given the hour of the day that Mr. Harris Dawson had noted, would be appropriate. Move to adjourn?
Second.
Have a good day, everyone.
Good one. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Have a motion to adjourn again.